All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. Barring any major emergencies or anything like that, we should have a full show. I apologize. I have the hiccups. I've been trying to get rid of them for a little while, but I still have them. Um, so some little excitement this past weekend. Let's see. We've had the schedule was released. We had rookie minicamp, and oh yeah, they signed Jarvis Landry from LSU and of late the Cleveland Browns, Miami Dolphins. So your entire wide receiver room has changed from last year. We top three receivers were an injured Michael Thomas, who was going to be on IR, um, Callaway, Hardy, and what Kenny Stills,
Little,
Traquan Smith,
little Jordan.
little, little Jordan Humphreys, Kevin White. I mean, it's a completely different room. I mean, just getting Michael Thomas alone, um, is I mean that was amazing enough. So, what are y'all's thoughts? Bob, we'll go with you first. What are your thoughts on bringing in Landry?
No,
And
see, I, I thought I
how
thought
do
we
you
were
see him
gonna.
being used?
What's that?
How do you see him being used? I guess in this offense.
No, see, I thought the big personnel move we were going to talk about was them re-signing Divino Zigbo, the undrafted
Mm,
running back.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Listen, it adds prestige to the receiver room. There is zero question about that. Uh, I didn't think that Jarvis Landry was a need. I
Mm-hmm.
looked at him more of a luxury as
Oh
long
yeah.
as Michael Thomas is healthy. But by bringing in Landry, you do hedge your bets. If MT is a little bit slow in his rehab,
Mm-hmm.
you do hedge your bets. If Olave is a little bit slow to develop, I mean, you're talking about two completely different players, between Olave and either Thomas or Landry. But it adds more skill to that receiving room. Just the threat of Olave, just the threat of a healthy Michael Thomas, and then of course now the addition of Landry. That makes Deontay Hardy and Marquez Callaway really what they should be, and that is complementary pieces.
Yeah.
And in Deontay's case, potentially the ultimate chess piece. That you can move around the formation and just look for mismatches with that game-breaking speed of his. So that's what Landry brings. The prestige. What, 4-time Pro Bowler, 3 or 4-time, 5-time Pro Bowler,
Yeah.
3 or 4-time, 1,000-yard receiver. Excellent route runner. I think that's what this team was missing last year. Deontay Harris, Hardy, whatever he wants to be called.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's an underrated route runner. But outside of that, Callaway, I like Callaway as a player, but he's limited in what he could do, certainly as a deep receiver. He's limited on his intermediate routes. He doesn't do a whole lot over the middle. But now you have, I think Olave is an excellent route runner. There is no better route runner than Michael Thomas. And Jarvis Landry is right up there too. Say this for the Saints. They not only showed faith in Jameis Winston by not drafting a quarterback, but now they have literally given him zero excuse to fail. Here's a number one draft choice at wide receiver. Here's a number one draft choice at offensive tackle. Obviously you have Kamara and the rest of those offensive linemen. Here's a healthy Michael Thomas back. If you can't do it now, you're never going to do it.
Well, and that's gonna be my next question. I'm gonna give this one to you, Sean. Obviously, Jarvis Landry um, gives us probably the deepest receiving core, like Matt said, since 2016 at least, if not
Mhm.
better than 2016.
I
So,
would say I would say better.
well,
On paper, yeah.
on paper, yeah. But I mean, keep in mind, 2016, Thomas and Cooks both went over 1,000 yards receiving, and Willie Snead was about 75 yards away from topping
Mm-hmm.
1,000 as well. So and then you had a 1,000-yard rusher, Mark Ingram, 5,000-yard passer. in Drew Brees, his last 5,000-yard passing year. And unfortunately, the team finished 7-9 because the defense wasn't there. So I guess my question is, how does this play out with Jameis? I mean, how do you see this working with Jameis? How do you see these pieces working together?
Right now, the key word that everyone needs to keep in mind, to me, is the P word, potential.
Like you guys
playoffs
for a minute. I thought you were talking about playoffs we're going to talk playoffs now.
No, there's a lot of ifs in this equation at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bob alluded to, if Thomas is fully healthy, if Olave develops quickly, if Landry is over his injury, if Jameis does what we all think he can do, this potentially could be a very, very dangerous team. And it's just going to be a matter of time before we find that out.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. Okay.
Yeah, that was exactly the words that I used today.
Yeah, because there's a lot of question marks. Even though on paper, like everyone's saying, I agree with you on paper, this is a very dangerous looking offense. The question marks begin with, does Alvin Kamara get suspended? And if so, how long? His trial is not or his hearing isn't even till August. So, that's the middle of training camp. So if he pleads no contest, that means the justice wheels or injustice wheels of the NFL can start right away. And I don't know if you're going to, Bob has to leave early tonight, everybody, but I'm going to try and get to this before Bob goes off. I want to look at the schedule because I see a point if, like they did with Hardy, Deontay Harris, and suspend Kamara in the middle of the season or towards the end of the season, that could be really dangerous if they suspend him at a certain point in this schedule that I'm looking at. Playoffs could be in the picture. And last year, the 4 games that Kamara missed, we lost all 4. If Kamara is suspended, let's just say week 8 or week 9, okay? That is the Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens. We have beaten the Ravens a grand total of 2 times since they've come into the league. I mean, they're the old Cleveland Browns. I get that. But when they became the Baltimore Ravens, we beat them in 2002 with Jake Delhomme, USO. And we beat them in 2018. Drew Brees finally got his win against the Ravens. And that win came basically with the most active kicker in the league missing an extra point. Yep, and we all remember that meme. He couldn't believe he missed it. So that really, if Kamara goes on a 6-game suspension or 4-game suspension, we don't even know how long it's going to be. But I'm going to say 6, like Onyemata. That's week 9, Ravens, week 10, Steelers, week 11, Rams, week 12, 49ers, week 13, Tampa Bay at Tampa, and then week 14, the bye. That doesn't count because they don't count that towards. So week 15 is against damn Atlanta. Then week 16. So that's what, let me see. I'm not going too far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So that would mean Kamara would come back. And I'm just saying, if he gets suspended around week 8 or week 9, he could come either in the Falcons game or the Browns game. And that's in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. That's a December game, Christmas Eve in Cleveland. Can we say mistake by the lake? I mean, it's going to be cold, so it's just, the New Year's Day, you get to play at Philadelphia.
Yep.
So there's that. So yeah, that's a tough time. If I want Kamara suspended, if Kamara's gonna get suspended, honestly, I want it in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Because you open up at Atlanta, but that should be a win. You host Tampa. Hell, we beat Tampa with Taysom Hill and Trevor Simeon, so we should be able to beat Tampa.
I think Kamara was out that game too. The second time when they were in Tampa, the 9-0.
I think he was too. I have to go back and look and see. But I mean, so those first 6 games, you can win. Those are all winnable games. At Carolina, where you facing Sam Darnold, or maybe Matt Corral by that point. Who knows? And in England for Minnesota and Kirk Cousins, that defense might be better, but you should be able to do a shootout with Minnesota and win a shootout. Week 5 is Seattle. And you're facing a team like that could be quarterbacked by Drew Lock or Geno Smith, or maybe Baker Mayfield. Who knows? Pete Carroll may finally look at this quarterback room and go, "Oh my God, I'm not living the Saints receiver room." From 2021. So he would come back after the Bengals game, and if you could be 4-1 at that point, going into that Bengals game 4-2, getting to the meat of the schedule, that's not bad. So I mean, that's just how I see it. So, let's see. So, I mean, I didn't want to go into the schedule that detail, but I just want to bring up the Kamara thing. The other thing is, we have to hope that Trevor Penning comes up pretty quickly and moves into the starting slot. You didn't draft him in the first round. Yeah, yeah, you could have. But if you're going to draft a left tackle in the first round, you kind of want to play him right away. So I want to see, I really want to see whether or not he's ready to step into that role. Do you remember who Tutti Robbins is, Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Bob?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so who was Tutti Robbins?
He was he was a Pro Bowl quality, offensive tackle with I believe it was always the St. Louis Cardinals when he played for them. He might have moved out to Phoenix and Arizona. But I know
because they moved in '87. So yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I knew the bulk of his career was with the Cardinals. I didn't know whether it was all St. Louis or he was part of the move. But yeah, that's how he's best remembered by the average NFL fan from that era.
He came from Green Bay when we got him. But what's so important about Tutti Robbins, Sean? Do you remember what happened to him?
Why you always got to put me on the spot?
Because this is your friggin' school, dude. No, I'm just kidding. A left tackle from Louisiana Tech beat him out within the first couple of weeks of camp.
Yep.
Yeah, that Willie Rofe. He came in
Mr. Rofe.
Yes, he was the guy. He was the guy who the Saints signed to play left tackle. And actually, Willie Rofe played right tackle his first year. But Stan Brock, they flipped to the left tackle again because I believe it was Stan Brock. I think that was Stan's last year with the Saints, 93. I might be wrong, but yeah, they played. I know he finished his career with the Chargers going to the Super Bowl in 94. But anyway, Rofe, they were going to play Tutti Robbins, and he decided to play Rofe at right tackle, but he beat Tutti Robbins out within the first couple of days of camp. They were like, yeah, thanks for everything, but it's pretty obvious this dude who may walk like John Wayne, he's throwing people all over camp. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and play him. We're going to go ahead and start him. But yeah, Rofe did start on the right side. Then he moved to the left. I think he moved to the left because they moved on from Stan Brock after the 93 season, but the memory starts to go after 30 years. I just remember the name. So to me, I think Penning has to start week 1.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's this is no red shirt season where you have to sit there and see whether or not he can cut it as a left tackle, and you have Hurst in there for a while. I think you have to put him in, pencil him in week 1, and let him sink or swim protecting your quarterback. So, I mean, that's a question mark. The Kamara suspension, as I mentioned, Jameis Winston now being in full command of this offense. Let's see how much he produces, how much he matures and produces.
He's got to be excited for the potential that this is looking towards.
I think he is, but my worry is, how does he fit in the context of this offense, and how much is this offense going to be reshaped to fit his strengths, which is play action, deep seam routes. He's not as good in the short intermediate throws as he is hitting those seam routes, and he loves play action because it makes it easier for him to handle the defense, because he can do good ball fakes and they suck up, and a healthy Camaro will make a difference. So, I'm also concerned about the defense, how that secondary looks now without both Malcolm Jenkins and Marcus Williams. On paper, is it an upgrade because you got a younger, probably a younger Malcolm Jenkins in the form of Tyrann Mathieu? He's a little bit shorter than Jenkins, but he can move better.
Yeah.
And Marcus May, who does have a 3-game suspension, he does miss those first 3 games of the season because of that DUI from last year. So chances are you're going to see a combination of PJ Williams and probably Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back there playing single high safety. With the rookie being worked. Oh, that reminds me. I didn't want to jump all over the place, but I'm going to. Did y'all see much news about the rookie minicamp? There wasn't much that they could show.
No.
A little.
Okay, so one of the things they talked about in the rookie minicamp was that the cornerback they got from Tennessee, they talked about his size.
Yep.
And how he was kind of intimidating some of those receivers out there because he was big and physical. Part of me wonders, okay, do they go ahead and move Mathieu maybe to the single high safety or play kind of that cover 2, maybe have the rookie down there shoving and knocking people around, taking on tight ends and stuff as a strong? I mean, I don't know. They said he's going to play corner, but at the same time, as we all know, the Saints like to have hybrid kind of players. So,
yeah.
Do y'all see something like that happening? I mean, just depending on how he works out in camp.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as how they're going to use Alontae Taylor, it does depend on how he develops, what his strengths are. But we know that Chris Richard likes those big defensive backs. We know that Dennis Allen likes those versatile defensive backs. Taylor brings both qualities. And as far as what you were saying with, Tyrann Mathieu, and for that matter, Marcus May, when he comes back too. Marcus May is more of a pure free safety, probably the most pure free safety they have on the roster currently. But Mathieu has played that deep single high before. They're both capable of playing a 2 high safety look, whether it's cover 2 or a hybrid of it. We know that PJ Williams excels in off the ball coverage. So I think that you're going to see a lot of interchanging with these guys. And that includes Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, because in my opinion, if they just plug Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back there as a single high or a 2 high safety, he'd play well at it, but that takes away from what he does best and what he brings best to this defense, and that is a rover. Very much like Tyrann Mathieu has been throughout his career, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to be better at it in 2022 because he's younger, he has fresher legs, and he's just flat out more athletic. So that's why I think,
and he's an aggravating shit. He's an aggravating
Yeah.
shit talker too. So you got to have that.
Exactly. I think we're going to see a lot of moving parts with those guys. Until they kind of fit in as puzzle pieces for what. I mean, Allen and Richard are going to figure out what they do best. But until then, they're going to rely on the versatility of every single one of those guys.
Yeah.
So, Sean, I talked about some of the weaknesses on offense, and then we started talking about the secondary. Let's talk about linebackers for a second, because I think that's where we were going when I got that phone call last week. We were going to talk about, the other needs that this team has coming out of the draft. Quan Alexander, yet another LSU player. I don't think LSU fans can stand much more, but they're going to want another LSU player, at least one, if not two more. Is Quan Alexander a signing that the Saints need to do?
I believe it is. Yeah, I've said on here many, many times, this defense is just a much better defense with Quan and Demario Davis playing together. There's a noticeable drop-off of effective play going from Quan to Werner. Now, that very easily could be the youth and inexperience of Werner, which he could up his game this coming season. He was a rookie last year, correct?
Yes.
You could see a jump in his play going from year one to year two.
Yeah, the issue I have with just going with Werner and Davis is that you're thin behind that.
Yes.
You've got linebackers who are good at one thing, but not linebackers who are good at everything, like you have with Quan, Werner, and Davis. So I think Quan's going to be one of those guys. If they re-sign him, they would re-sign him during training camp, maybe around that time, once they get a good look at the young guys. Donald just mentioned Eric Wilson. I think they're going to want to look at some of these other guys and see what they can do. And if they look and they say, we've got guys out here who can do some stuff for us, but we don't have guys out there, I don't think can play all three downs. I know this guy. I know Alexander's in good shape. I know he's taking care of himself. We could make a phone call, bring him in at any point. He'll be up to speed on the defense, and we're good to go. We can roll with it. There's no reason to bring him into training camp and have him take valuable reps away from these young guys who, and I hate to talk about Quan like he's Craig Robertson, but he is. At this point in his career, he's the Craig Robertson of the team. He's a guy that he's more talented than Craig. Don't get me wrong, but, this is another guy out there and somebody they probably want to look at. Is he still on the team? I think he is.
Yeah, he is. I'm shaking my head because he's a practice squad end of the roster guy, Andrew Dowd.
But I'm just saying, from this standpoint of, that he's going to be prepared for what he is going to, what you want him to do out there. He's going to be in shape. So you don't need to have him come into training camp and do all those practices and be there for the installation of the defense. He's going to know what he needs to do.
And at this point in his career, every rep that you get out of him in practice is a rep that you're going to lose in the season.
I was just going to kind of go there with that too. It not only takes reps away from the young guys, but let's face reality. Because the facts will bear it out through Quan's career. He's an injury waiting to happen.
Yes, he is. Yes.
But Sean, I'm glad you said what you said earlier. Is that when you said that there was a pretty big drop off from Quan to Pete Werner, because I've kind of bit my tongue all season long. Because don't get me wrong, I really like what Werner added to the defense. I think he's a fine player, and I think he's going to be a fine player. But he doesn't have the raw athleticism and sideline to sideline speed that Quan Alexander or Demario Davis have. Werner is a more disciplined player than Quan. Don't get me wrong. And Donald Woods, I see your comment about DeMarco Jackson. I am a huge fan of him, the 5th round rookie. You talk about Caden Ellis. Caden is a player that, like Alan said, he can do one or two things well. He plays the run extremely well. He's really disciplined. He can come forward and rush the passer. You do not want Caden Ellis in coverage.
Nor do you want this guy, Zach Bond.
In any defensive reps.
No.
My guess is, and I like the signing of Eric Wilson. That's a very under the radar signing. That people really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to because Jarvis Landry came to town to officially sign his deal. But Eric Wilson he's extremely effective in zone coverage. Eyes on the ball, eyes on the backfield. He moves well through zone. He doesn't cover particularly well in man. But in his drops off of the line of scrimmage, he can make plays. So that's an under the radar sign. But if they like the way Eric looks through these OTAs, that kind of pushes the priority of Quan Alexander back a little bit more. If DeMarco Jackson looks really, really good in these OTAs, that kind of pushes the priority of Quan Alexander back a little bit more. I want him signed too. I think Quan Alexander makes this defense exponentially better and certainly eases the depth concerns at linebacker. But I agree with Alan. I think if it happens, it won't happen until 2.5 weeks into training camp.
Right. And don't put it past the Saints to start looking at other linebackers and other teams to see who might get cut or who might get released or traded. That's all that possibility. Right. So, there's a bunch of things that factor into it. And I think Quan, I like Quan a lot. I like like Sean said, I like the energy he brings to the team, but you also have to realize that, like Bob said, he's injury waiting to happen. And we've been lucky that we've gotten as much production as we have out of him, especially last year. I think last year he had some kind of voodoo magic spell to come back from a torn Achilles tendon looking faster than ever. So you mentioned, I think, Bob, Ezigbo came back. That, you got the big back from Baylor, who came as an undrafted free agent. Do you still think, and we found out Sonny Michel, he did come visit the Saints after all, and he had flunked his physical. So that's why the Saints let him walk. They did not sign him. Do you think they are still in the market for a back?
I sure as hell hope so.
We can scratch Tariq Cohen off that list.
Yeah.
Ruptured his Achilles today.
And Philip Lindsay, really the only bona fide 1,000-yard rusher left on the market, signed with Indianapolis, so he's off the market now. But with the Kamara suspension looming, and let's be realistic, folks, it is going to happen. I'm terrified that it's going to happen in that meat of the schedule. With the Rams, 49ers, Buccaneers. Not only playoff contenders, but if you're a conspiracy theorist, those are NFC opponents. And we can always leave it up to the real culprit for the disappearance of the Roanoke colony, Roger Goodell.
They misspelled Goodell on the tree. Is that what you're saying?
I am.
It was a table. Was it a table or a tree? I forgot.
I always read that it was a tree.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it was carved in the tree. They tried spelling Goodell and they misspelled it. Right. That's how it goes. I got you.
But the suspension to Kamara is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm like you guys. I want it to happen right out of the gate. Like ripping off a Band-Aid. Just get it the hell over with.
Yeah.
Listen, Mark Ingram is still a quality back, but he's not a featured back anymore. He's not a bell cow. He's not the guy that you can run your offense through. And I like Abram Smith. I love the film of this kid when I broke it down. But yeah, let's be real, folks. If Kamara's out, and we can all agree that Ingram is not the guy that can hold up as a featured back week in and week out anymore, do you really want to push all your chips in the middle of the table for an undrafted rookie from Abram Smith, an undrafted guy who's bounced around 4 or 5 different teams in Divine Ozigbo, and an undrafted guy in Tony Jones, who, when given the opportunity last year, proved absolutely nothing? They need to bring in a back, and the quality ones are gone. But even if I suppose you could bring back the Latavius Murray. Have him split carries with Ingram and see which one is less old. The guy I'd want to bring in, and I hate another LSU guy. Sorry, Tiger fans. I'm sick of hearing it. But Darrell Williams from the Chiefs, Jerick McKinnon from the Chiefs, Jordan Howard from the Eagles. Those are all guys that I would like to. Williams being the top of that list. But those are all guys that I would like to see the Saints bring in. And at least kick the tires on.
Yeah, and again, that's when I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm deathly afraid that, we're going to drop this Kamara suspension right in the middle of that season. And I've pointed out on previous shows to Sean and you that if you look at every season where the Saints won 13 games, or 10 games, or 12 games. There's a run that they go on in the middle of the season of 7, 8, 9 games in a row of wins. And that builds it for playoff seeding and so forth. Where this run needs to happen is in the middle of this season, maybe out the gate. The Bengals are very good. I'm not, obviously they are because they went to the Super Bowl. But I don't know how good this offensive line is going to be. I don't know how they're going to gel. And you're playing at home, although with the LSU contingent, it's going to be hard to tell who's the home team when the offenses are out there.
Well, we're developing our own LSU contingent now.
Maybe that's why Dennis Allen is signing all these LSU guys.
That might be why. Because I tell you what, I was not.
They'll won't be cut after the Bengals game.
Yeah, I was not. OBJ now wants to join, and people are like, oh man, too late. You had just shot last year, so. But yeah, I mean, so. Offensively, it's going to be a pretty split crowd. So the defense is really going to have to put the clamps and start knocking Joe Burrow around. It's not Goodell's discretion when he gets suspended. Only that the justice thing, the court case has to kind of play itself out before he can do anything. And
technically, he in the front office could do something now, but in order to have any kind of legal recourse or anything, any kind of recourse against the players' union, they usually like to see how, like Alan said, the justice wheels kind of bear themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just saying, if Kamara pleads no contest at his hearing, it's not even the court case, it's the hearing. If he pleads no contest at the hearing, then no contest means there's no trial. It's over with. You're not guilty, but you're not innocent either. You're not found not guilty. And then Goodell could issue the suspension because Mays already pled to his deal for the DUI. Same thing happened with Deontay Hardy. He had already got his deal. It was over with. There was no more case. So that's why Goodell was able to issue a suspension. This, depending on how long this drags out, that just keeps pushing any potential suspension further down into the season. The good news is if you make the playoffs, I don't believe the suspension goes into the postseason.
Right.
I don't think it does. But in the Saints,
that would be a special case for sure. That
which
would
of
be
course, the Saints would be the first one to test case.
Yeah.
But we want to show, you can't do that. Yeah, we want you to be suspended for that first playoff game. So, excuse me. If what you're gonna see, unfortunately, is you're gonna see guys walking around in those half LSU, half Cincinnati Bengals Burrow jerseys. Where it's going to start out with the correct spelling of his name with the black and orange, and then on the purple, white, and gold side, it's going to be EAUX, and the other half of the 9. You're going to see those things out there. I saw him already. I saw him last year in the playoffs. I was in a sports bar watching them. Like, they're screaming and cheering and stuff. I'm going, who's playing? Like, oh, it's LSU people. So, yeah, I Calvin, to hell with these gimpy leg running backs. I know. Like Jalen should call us Hyde. Yeah.
Carlos Hyde is still alive.
Yeah, he's still out there. Did he play for Cleveland last year?
Yep.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think he played for Cleveland last year.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not an advocate of going bargain bin hunting for a running back either. That hardly ever works out well for anyone ever. But again, if I'm Dennis Allen, I don't think I want to push all my chips in the center of the table, for undrafted and unproven guys. Now, on the other hand, if we are talking about a Kamara suspension that gets pushed later into the season, by that time, you might see what you have, and you might like what you see in an Abram Smith. Divine Ozigbo, might have channeled his 1980s version of a Nebraska running back, that kind of thing. So if you're going to look on the positive side of a later Kamara suspension, that could be it right there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, that, once you get past the Tampa game, even though we historically have played very badly against Cleveland, Cleveland's still a winnable game. Philadelphia's still a winnable game if they just keep Jalen Hurts in the damn pocket and don't let him run. But Carolina probably by week 18 has got their interim coach in there. And they're playing Matt Corral, and they're in competition with Atlanta for the number 1 overall pick of next year's draft. You play Atlanta week 15. It's either the 17th or the 18th. They haven't decided that game. It's to be determined. But I mean, it's very winnable games in the season that you don't need Kamara to win those games. You can beat them with the passing game. And again, that's assuming that Winston has the talent, obviously, but we need to make sure he plays smart football, doesn't put the ball at risk. But if Winston plays to his capabilities, you're probably looking at maybe by week 17, 18, are you the number 1, number 2 seed, depending on how you did against the 49ers and the Rams, because I think those are those two in Dallas are probably your biggest challengers for the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs if this season unfolds the way it should for the Saints. And if the Kamara suspension happens in the middle of the season, then it becomes a real challenge. You're going to probably win the division if your defense can still sweep Tom Brady, regardless if Kamara's there. But then where you fit in the playoff seeding is a little more tricky. So that's why that week 11, week 12, week 13, those 3 games, those are the most critical games of the season.
No doubt.
Home against the Rams, at the 49ers, at Tampa. And that's a tough game because you're on opposite ends of the coast in a week.
Yeah.
You're going from the West Coast all the way to beautiful downtown stormy Tampa. So I know, Bob, you're going to have to go, but real quick, I want to get your thoughts on this. So Sean Payton got his job with Fox. He's going to be an analyst. I don't know if he is going to be on the Sunday pregame show, or is he going to be a color commentator on TV for games, regional games. I don't know that yet. It's just that he's got that job.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Drew Brees got let go from NBC.
Mhm.
So Drew Brees sends out a tweet, that he said before that he was excited about this receiving core. He says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might go back, go back to playing football. I might go do something else. Might become on the senior golf circuit. Might become a pickleboard player.
Pickleball.
Pickleball. I have no idea what that is. I know what cabbage ball is. I have no idea what pickleball is.
Pickleball is kind of like tennis. You have a racket that's just a little bigger than a ping pong paddle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I know about it.
Sounds like
mush ball.
Mush ball. Okay. Well, cabbage ball, for those of you not from New Orleans and didn't go to Catholic school, it's like softball, except the balls, it's about the size of a softball. It's been mashed to the point it's really, really soft. You can catch it with your hand. You don't need a glove. And when you hit it, the ball does kind of bend around the bat. It's aluminum bats, but it does kind of bend around the bat. So it's not like a baseball where, you make that contact and boom, it's gone. You have to really have some upper body power to really knock a cabbage ball. And the pitcher is a lot closer. And there's funny rules about stealing bases, and you can run if you strike out still. It's got all kinds of unusual rules. My kids played it. My middle daughter was really, really good at it because it was so funny because you used to play this at recess too.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys played against the girls, and Allison comes up to hit. And I've told this story many times. I'll tell it again. Allison comes up to hit, and all the boys like, oh, easy out, easy out. And this is grade school. And one boy who had seen Allison play on the school cabbage ball team said, no, she's not. Get the hell back. She is not an easy out. You better back up. Boom! Knocks the ball over the fence into the street, behind the school. Yeah, easy out my ass. So, because they had her batting sixth. They had the first power hitter batting fourth, and then they had her batting sixth. She would bounce from 6 to 8, depending on how the game was going. They might push it to 8 if they got a lot of kids that getting on base on single bases. So Allison and this other girl could clear the bases for everybody. Yeah, so it's fun. It's a fun game. It's fun to see. Real quick, so we talked about linebacker, tight end. You got Trotman, Vanette, Juwan Johnson, and Taysom Hill at tight end. There's nothing out there unless you want to bring back the, Jared Cook
Nope.
or his less capable and talented brother Eric Ebron, or Jimmy Graham, reanimate the corpse of Jimmy Graham. It's next to nothing out there. So I saw a little bit about Krull, but rookie minicamp, they're not allowed to show anything. The first full minicamp is in 3 weeks. So, I mean, is there anything we can do, or are we kind of stuck with what we have?
It's stuck with what we got.
I agree.
Stuck with what they got. And clearly the Saints have made a conscious decision that their passing game is going to go through, obviously, Kamara. But that's another reason why they bulked up that receiving core. Folks, Taysom Hill is not the answer at tight end. Stop it. He is going to be what he's always been. He's going to be a weapon out of the backfield. They're going to move him in motion. They're going to bring him. They're going to bring him into pass routes. I have no doubt about that. But it's going to be in an H-back role, either moving him in motion or coming off of the line of scrimmage. He's not going to be an inline tight end. Stop it. Adam Troutman. Adam Troutman showed, I guess, a little bit of signs of life as a blocker last year. Therefore, he'll be your starter. Vanette, if Kroll and Juwan Johnson show any development at all as blockers, I think I have no doubt they're both capable receivers. But if they show any development at all as blockers, Vanette's on the chopping block as far as cuts. Juwan and Jameis Winston has some chemistry together. We saw that last year. Kroll is built like a behemoth, but he can't block and he won't block. He's like 6'6", 270, 260. He's a literal monster. But he's soft as a pillowcase. He ran. I saw some footage from rookie minicamp, and he ran some great routes in space. He'll put on a show in training camp, and he'll probably be kept for a practice squad spot. I don't see him jumping up and beating out. Because if we're right, and the Saints passing game is going to revolve around the receivers and Kamara, then that means they're going to want to focus on this tight end spot even more for blocking. So that means Kroll better get some bricks in those drawers because you already have your guy that you're going to move around and have in space. That's Taysom Hill because Taysom Hill is not going to be your inline tight end. So stop it.
I was going to say one other thing before I hit Sean with a comment. And for those of you who heard Dennis Allen say the Taysom Hill at quarterback experiment is over with, it is and it isn't. From the standpoint of Taysom Hill is not going to be just a quarterback. He is still going to run those plays, those RPO plays, where you're going to see Jameis come out and Taysom Hill go under center to run RPOs and short yardage stuff. But you're also going to see Taysom Hill going there as a tight end, as outside the numbers or as the H-back role. You're going to see Taysom Hill as the up back on special teams. You're going to see Taysom Hill possibly returning kicks. You're going to see him all over the place like you saw him before. When they say the experiment is over with, he means Dennis Allen is sitting there looking at his play calling sheet and for the offense, and he's going, why do I have one of my best playmakers standing on the sideline next to me the whole game? He needs to be out there on the field. So many people think that the Taysom Hill quarterback experiment means he will never play quarterback again. That's not true at all. He is still going to do those things. And yes, he's going to throw passes to make those RPOs believable, because if everybody knows, he's just going to run with it, he's got to throw a couple passes out of it. So to me, that's the part that no one talks about. You read Saints Twitter and they get delusional because of the things I'm reading everything from, 15-1 or 15-2 record, 14-3. And I'm sorry, even if we're 100% healthy, I don't see a record that good. The best we've ever done was 13-3. We did that 4 times. And that was tough because you're talking a 13-game winning streak the first time we did it. 10 games, 11-game winning streaks, 8-game winning streaks in the middle of that stuff, it's tough to win that many games in a row. And like I said, that week 11 to week 13 sequence, and even week 10, I mean, I don't know what kind of Steelers team we're going to be seeing week 10. Yeah, you're probably they're going to have Kenny Pickett as a quarterback by that point, because I can't see anybody beating him out. So Kenny Pickett's in there as quarterback. Who knows what he looks like by that point? He may look solid, and certainly the Steelers. And this is one of the things about Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record.
Right.
Never had a season with a losing record as head coach of the Steelers. And these are seasons where he's lost Roethlisberger for most of the season, and he still managed to pull out a winning record. So the Steelers are going to be formidable, and that's in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's after you playing the Ravens, who I said we've only beaten twice in all the times we've ever played the Ravens. So I mean, that's a tough stretch to sit there and talk about 15 wins, 14 wins. To me, if you can win 10 to 11 games, I know I shared a comment from John Butler, who's saying that some people are predicting the Saints winning fewer games than last year. I only can accept that from the standpoint you're playing two tougher divisions than you played last year. The AFC North and the NFC West are a lot tougher than the AFC East. And we played the NFC East last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
AFC and NFC East. I mean, both those divisions were weak in comparison to these two. And you're probably going to sweep the Falcons. You're probably going to sweep the Panthers. We've only swept the entire NFC South once, and that was in 2018, I believe. I think it was either 2018 or 2019, but I'm almost positive it was 2018. So, so yeah, I mean, and then, who knows how they're going to play against the Eagles in week 17. For whatever reason, we act like we've never seen a mobile quarterback in our lives whenever we play Jalen Hurts. It kills me. I'm like, dude, you got Taysom Hill literally right there on the roster. Have him run the damn scout team. Teach these guys how to, cover. Taysom can throw passes just as long as now with 15 yards. His deep balls as bad as 43-year-old Drew Brees. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm waiting for Davenport to get the 15 and a half sacks, too. This is the last thing I want to bring up tonight, too. This is the first time in Saints history that they start the division with 3 consecutive divisional games. Do you want to know what the Saints' record is against the Falcons in week 1, whenever they played week 1?
I don't think it's very good, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
It isn't very good. It's 1-8.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
And the one win we have was in
2013. Kenny Vaccaro's interception on last play of the game.
Yep, 2013, last play of the game. The losses, 62-7, opening day 1973. 1979, the revenge game after the 2 20-17 losses in 78, which cost them a playoff spot, and they win in season. Saints host the Falcons opening day. They lose 40-34 in overtime because they snapped the ball over the head of Russell Erxleben. Erxleben comes running back there, does a complete Garo Upremian type of pass right into the line, right into the arms of a linebacker. Oh, I'll never forget that game because I was watching it from home. My mom and dad went to that game, and I was pissed. Wasted a Wes Chandler 200-yard receiving day. out of that game. So yeah, it's not good. It's not good. We've lost more times than I can imagine, and unfortunately, the Saints have to sweep the Falcons because they're only 2 games away from tying the all-time season mark. It's the Falcons are ahead 54-52. We sweep this. We finally shut these clowns up with the all-time record, and you tied them, and that includes the Falcons benefiting from 10-game winning streaks against the Saints. They had a 10-game winning streak from 1995 to 2000. They won every game those seasons. 2000 first time they lost. 94 in Atlanta was the last time we beat them, and that was the game. And it's on YouTube on ESPN. You got to mute it because Joe Theismann you're going to want to kill Theismann because he is doing everything but offering to go pick out curtains with Jeff George because he loves Jeff George running this run and shoot offense, and he just glows about the run and shoot offense. How much he loves the run, and Jeff George is just awesome running the run and shoot offense. But we beat their ass, and it is so quiet in the dome, in the Georgia Dome. You can hear Sam Mills calling out the defense, calling out the offensive plays that the Falcons are going to run because it's that damn quiet in that stadium because there ain't nobody in there. June Jones, the head coach. It's awesome. It's a great game. It's a fun game. The one thing that is kind of went under the radar. But I wanted to bring, Jeff George. He was an egomaniac. That was his problem. Nothing was ever his fault. It was always somebody else's fault. Incredibly talented person, but just a terrible teammate. One thing that's kind of gone on the radar, and I saw a little story about this. And Bob, if you wrote it, I apologize. I don't remember who wrote the story, but Peyton Turner is kind of having a very good offseason. He's been working out and he's supposed to be in great shape and all this stuff. I don't know who wrote this story, but Peyton Turner is going to be one of these guys supposed to have a monster year this year. So they were talking about in terms because he missed so much of last year, essentially the Saints have 3 number 1 picks starting this year. I mean, Bob, what do you think of that?
And no, I did not write the story, but I've been watching Peyton Turner, and guys, he was in great shape last year. That was just a weird injury that he never really recovered from. Tried to play too soon, re-aggravated it. But Turner is a hell of a talent. Freakish athleticism, and this young man is ready to go. He is part of that edge crew. The story I did write about was being a little bit concerned about the lack of interior pass rush, from the Saints defensive tackles. Onyemata will give it to you, but even he had a off year last year. Peyton Turner is one of those guys, along with Davenport, Passanio, and even Cam, that they moved inside on obvious passing situations. They'll continue to do that, but the thing about Peyton Turner is he played a lot of defensive tackle in college too. It would not surprise me if Turner found himself playing some snaps, some early down snaps on the interior of the line. I think PT, he's got a lot of developing as a pass rusher to do. Since he was moved inside, outside a lot at Houston in college, he never really developed go-to pass rush moves. But he has the strength. He has freakish explosion off the snap. I think this kid is prime, for a real breakout year.
This is not a politically correct term anymore, but we used to call those guys like him because he has such long arms, gorilla arms. And it's because, of course, the way gorillas walk on all fours, their arms are incredibly long. But if you have these long gorilla arms that you could knock the ball down so easily, I can see him coming in a lot in NASCAR packages, I guess they still call it that. but moving inside and playing defensive tackle and just to get, if he can't get to the quarterback, just knock the ball down. And of course Shy Tuttle is going to be a starter there. Donald, I gotta say, I don't think this guy's even going to make the roster.
No.
I think there's too much talent ahead of him. I think between, Granderson, Turner, Davenport, Jordan, there's your top 4 defensive ends. I just don't see him really. He has to stand out on special teams, and he'd have to really show him something in camp, and he just hasn't shown anything in his career so far. Yeah, Granderson's really got that 4th spot locked up. He really, really does. So
I apologize, but I got to run.
Yep. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I think we touched on almost everything I wanted to touch on with you. So appreciate it. Thank you, Bob.
No problem. Love you, brothers. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Love you, man.
Yeah, he's this year's Kevin White. Yeah, pretty much. So, okay, Sean.
He is so important that I forgot we even signed him.
Well, people were mad because we should have signed him on a Tuesday, so you have Taco Tuesday. But we've already got Smoke Monday, so you got to have Taco Tuesday. All we need is Wednesday Adams working in this. We could pretty much knock out almost all the days of the week. So, Sean, looking at the schedule, what is the hardest game you see out of this schedule?
Well, to take the easy route here, I think you hit the nail on the head. That stretch there, going from Pittsburgh to home against the Rams. Then, no, wait a minute.
Yeah,
it's Rams, 49ers, and Bucks, right?
Right.
That 4-game stretch right there could potentially make or break the season for the Saints.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you start out like a house on fire and you go, 4-1, 5-1, maybe even 6-2, I think the Bengals game is, one of those questionable games. When's the last time we beat the Bengals? I got to ask this question, and I got it wrong. Last time we beat the Bengals at home, I got this answer wrong. At home, yeah. No,
I remember. I think the last time that we played them was the game where both Ingram and Kamara both went over 100 yards, wasn't it? But that was in Cincinnati.
That was in Cincinnati. Yes, that was 2018 as well. We beat them 51-7 or something ungodly like that. But
yeah.
No, the last time we beat them at home was 1993, and I missed the year. I missed the season. And what's funny about it was I went to that game. I was at that game. It was Steve Walsh's last game as a starter for the Saints. That was the end of the 93 season. Wade Wilson had gotten hurt in that infamous Giants Monday night game. Mike Buck started against the Philadelphia Eagles, and my God, that was a disaster. And then Steve Walsh got to play the rest of the season. I think it was the last 2 or 3 games, and that was his last ever start as a Saint. Went to the Bears in '94. But
I thought he went to Dallas from us.
No, he came from Dallas originally.
Oh.
He came from Dallas. So yeah, we lost. Yeah, Donald, you're right. We lost in 2006. I was at that game too. I took my daughter to that one. And 2014, again at that game. That was a miserable game. I hated that game. That was a painful game to watch. Was the 2014 loss. So yeah, yeah, you're right. The Saints always seem to lose that one team they have no business losing to. You're right. That's something that we got to do. We got to get that John. And there it is. I was at that game. I was at a lot of these games, so I have a lot of memories. I have seen I think I've seen us play every team in the Dome in the NFL at one time or another. And just yeah. But it was funny because my son asked me that trivia question and I missed it, and he says, "Oh, it was this year." I'm like, "Oh yeah." How could I? Because it was not a very good game. It really wasn't. I mean, there was hardly anybody there. Nobody was making any kind of noise. They were just like praying for this season to end. So it was not a good season. Yes, you do need to figure out a way to go to a game. It's so different now compared to even how it was in 2006. I mean, the stadium experience is so much different. If there's a game on the schedule that the Saints lose and they have no business losing to, and I'm going to throw out these names: Atlanta, Carolina. These are all games at home because I'm going to pick the ones from home. Seattle, the Raiders. Yeah, that's it. That's all of them because the Vikings game doesn't count. Which of these games can you see the Saints lose to that they have no business losing to?
Well, Atlanta for sure, because I mean, when these two teams play, you can throw the records and all that out.
Mm-hmm.
They're just that much of a hated rival. But also Seattle, and you could potentially say the Raiders because I mean you are talking about a team that made the playoffs last year.
Yeah. I mean, and that coaching staff. It's a new coaching staff. I mean, it's Josh McDaniels. I'm not a big fan of Josh McDaniels. I don't think much of him as a coach, but I'm curious. I'm curious to see how this Raiders team bounces back because one of the things they didn't do, they're not going to pick up the 5th-year extension of Josh Jacobs, which I think is really strange because he's one of their more dependable backs, but it's like they decided, no, we can do better. We're not going to pay you. We got enough carries. We've worn you down pretty good. So I'm curious to see how this team responds to this new coaching staff and the rest.
I was just completely blown away that they didn't retain that interim. I mean, Jesus, after everything that went on with the whole Gruden situation, and he took them to the playoffs.
Yeah, he did. Well, when you have somebody with the Dumb and Dumber haircut as your owner, I'm sorry, Mark Davis has the worst haircut in the world. Yeah, it is Josh McDaniels. I just want to make sure I wasn't crazy. Josh McDaniels.
You reckon he wants to beat Denver?
Yeah, I think that's the game he cares the most about. So, I didn't even start coughing. I had the hiccups first, then I started coughing here. So quick predictions then.
Oh God!
Just to end the show with this, I'm not going to hold you to anything of this stuff. I'm not talking about what the Saints season record is going to be yet, or anything like that. I'm going to get that before the season starts. We're going to talk about that. But
every time I make a prediction involving the Saints seem to say, "Hold my beer and watch this."
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, I forgot Davante Adams is over there too. He's now with the Raiders, so
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to be missing is the Sam Spence music because everybody's going to want to see the Mad Bomber Part 2, which we didn't even mention. Daryl LaMonica passing away. He passed away last week, and of course, last Tuesday, I had to get up and leave in the middle of the broadcast. But I mean, the Raiders are going to be a vertical game again. I think that's what McDaniels is going to want to try and do. So, with Davante Adams over there, that's another challenge for our Saints defense. So, I see those games. Seattle, the Raiders, and of course the Falcons as really trap games to watch for. If we lose,
to me, Seattle, in a lot of ways, it's going to be determined by what happens with the quarterback position.
well, yeah, I mean that's a given. And I think
Drew Lock ain't going to beat us.
No, and I don't think Geno Smith will beat us. But yeah, you're right. But I'm curious to see, do they make the trade for Baker Mayfield? By that
I don't see that happening. I can't see Baker and Pete Carroll coexisting.
But if all you're left with is the prospect of Geno Smith and Drew Lock, and you're 0-4 going into Week 5, I mean, how many losses do you want to take before you try and make a move on a quarterback who and we don't even know what the Browns are going to do. The Browns may be holding on to him until the trade deadline, hoping and praying that somebody's stupid enough to take him. And I don't mean that in the standpoint of that Baker Mayfield's not a quality quarterback. I'm talking about stupid enough to take his $18.8 million guaranteed $1 million salary. That's really what is his holdup. Because I promise you, if Baker Mayfield was on the street right now, a team like the Falcons, the Seahawks, they would be all over Mayfield.
Yeah.
It's nobody wants to take that. Nobody wants to take that pay on. Not at all. So I mean, that's why I circle the Seattle game as a trap game, because by all means we should kick the shit out of them, but it's one of those games where I'm like, we should have beat the hell out of the Giants, and we didn't. We lost that game.
We should have beat Carolina.
Well, yeah, but the offense, they had so many coaches out with COVID, and the offensive line was just a swinging door, So I that's why I have that game as a trap game. I have the Raiders game as a game that's going to be a lot harder than what people may assume.
Jimmy Gumbo, it was in the playoffs.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Saw the schedule release for the first time in I don't remember how many years. The Saints play on my birthday this year.
Oh, well, that's good.
No, it's not.
Good. Oh, it's not.
The last time that the Saints played on my birthday, the world got introduced to Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, yes, that's right. The playoff game. Yeah.
Well,
that's not the playoff game that I was talking about the last time we lost to him. That was 2013.
In Seattle.
You're talking about the 2010 one.
Yeah.
Well,
when they didn't even have a winning record, and we had to go to Seattle to play them.
Yeah, and there's reasons why we lost that game. It was mainly because we were beat to hell. We were down to Julius Jones as a running back. And the ironic thing, and I told this story before, the ironic thing was the Saints had made an offer to Buffalo for Marshawn Lynch earlier that year because he went through 4 running backs. And the Seahawks got him. The Bills got less for Lynch than what the Saints were offering. The Saints were like, what the hell? That, again, that's what's also kind of funny about this with these moves they were able to make this year. In previous years, we went after Jadeveon Clowney. We went after OBJ last year before the trade deadline. Sean Payton's on the phone with Josh Norman as he's walking into the Washington Redskins building to sign the contract, saying, "Don't sign it. We'll do something. We can give you whatever you want." So we've always managed to miss these guys, but this year we got the Honey Badger, we got Jarvis Landry. So Saints always play around my birthday too. They play the day after my birthday this year. They play Either they play the Falcons at home either the Sunday, the very day after my birthday on the 17th, or they play the 18th on Monday Night Football. So we'll see. That's one of those flex games, I guess. They have TBD. They play on Christmas Eve this year. Christmas is on a Sunday, so they play on Christmas Eve this year at Cleveland, the Mistake by the Lake, and then they New Year's night or New Year's Day. How are they going to do this on New Year's Day? What happened to all the bowl games on New Year's Day? But New Year's Day, we play at Philadelphia at noon.
I don't know about now, but I can remember several years ago that if New Year's Day fell on Sunday, college football had to work around the NFL.
Interesting. I did not know that. Do you know? Trivia question for you. Do you know the first NFL game played on Christmas Day? It was also
No, I do.
It was also the longest game in NFL history.
Oh, Colts, Giants.
No, you're thinking of the '58 championship game with Colts Giants. No, it was Chiefs.
Oh, wait. You said the longest game in history?
Longest game.
Okay, that was a playoff game between the Chiefs and the Dolphins.
Yep, that was Christmas Day.
Went beyond 2 overtimes.
Yes, that was Chiefs Dolphins. First game played on Christmas Day. When they saw the schedule for
and who was the star for the Chiefs in that game?
The star?
Mm-hmm.
Ed Podolak?
Very good.
Oh, yeah, I know who Ed Podolak.
I don't know why in the hell I thought I was going to trip you up.
No, I know. Number 14 for the Chiefs. I know who Ed Podolak is. Yeah, because that's a funny sounding name. And so it stuck with me. And it was a running back who wore number 14. So I always thought that was odd, Jan Stenerud missed a couple of key field goals, and that was the end of the Hank Stram Chiefs era. I used to have that on that game because even NFL Films doesn't have the whole game.
Wow.
Yeah, they found a reel and they were able to piece together from television footage that they have. They were able to piece together the whole game. They rebroadcast on the NFL Network. I think on the anniversary. So I want to say it was 2011, the anniversary of that game. And I DVR'd it. I wanted to watch it. And, it's a fascinating game to watch because it was the end of the Super Chiefs of Hank Stram. Mm-hmm. And it was the beginning of Schuler's Dolphins, 71. You had 72, the perfect season, 73, the second Super Bowl, and 74, which ended in the Sea of Hands. So it's a great time capsule. And it was the last game the Chiefs played old Municipal Stadium. Because the next year they went to Arrowhead. And fans blame Arrowhead for the end of the Chiefs. It's the weirdest thing. Because they said, they lost all their mojo. They were great in Municipal Stadium. They go to Arrowhead and they're going to suck for the next decade. It's not until the mid 80s before the Chiefs start winning when Schottenheimer, actually late 80s, when Schottenheimer comes in, late 80s, So yeah, it's one of those kind of things. So I'm missing all these little things. Yeah, the Saints always play around your birthday. You got a good birthday for the Saints, September 8th. Okay, I got that one. I got that comment already. Yeah, Greg Williams did keep blitzing. That was one of the reasons why we lost in 2010. That's also why we lost in 2011. He went to cover 0. Yeah, we have to beat before my time. Yeah, I know a lot of useless trivia before everybody's time. Here we go. I was at that game. Yeah. Yeah, great Chief players. Derek Thomas, Neil Smith, always had the bandage. Remember that fad for a while? Everybody had those breathe right strips on there. Mm-hmm. Supposedly open your nostrils and you're gonna breathe better. Yeah, you had that. Yeah, you're right. My wife. That was a lie. You had those things going on. And then for a while, you had everybody wearing those copper things on their wrist. Do you remember that? Did you see that? Mm-hmm. That was supposed to be magnetic and keep, I don't remember how it was supposed to work, but it was supposed to keep you from getting arthritis or something like that. I don't know.
Another great Chiefs player with a very brief career from Northwestern State, Joe Delaney.
Yes, Joe Delaney. Yeah,
That
defensive
is
back. Wasn't he?
no, he's running back.
Running back. Okay, all right.
Lost his life drowning trying to save 3 young kids.
That's right.
Right here in town.
You told me that story. I do remember that. I do remember that.
That's the reason that when I played, I wore number 37.
Okay. Yes. That's right.
Didn't know how to swim and jumped in that big water hole to try to save those kids.
Yeah, Derek Thomas. Yeah, he was a heck of a player. Neil Smith. Yeah, New Orleans kid, McDonald 35 alum. Do you remember? Yeah. Do you remember in the class of '83, all those quarterbacks? Do you remember who the Chiefs picked?
Todd Blackledge.
Right. And do you remember
Penn
who
State.
the most? Yes. And do you remember who the most decorated quarterback was in that class?
Ooh, the most decorated.
Mm-hmm. And with all the awards, had the
Probably Blackledge.
He was. It was Blackledge. That was the guy that everyone said was the best quarterback in that class. He had all the awards. He had everything going for him.
And he had just won a national championship.
Yes, he just won a national championship. And
Joe Paterno's very first.
And and the quarterback that they had the biggest question marks around because of a supposed drug issue was Dan Marino, which is why he fell. So it's just funny. John Elway, of course, Stanford Cal game. That's what I remember. It's about him in college. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how that all played out.
I hated Elway for so long for that.
Yeah, I like how you say this. I like how you say it's after Bob is off the air.
No, I've told Bob this too. I hated him for so long because of the way he leveraged his drafting.
Yeah, we should do a show about that because I had somebody ask in one of the football groups I'm in, ask about guys, if you get drafted by somebody and you don't want to play for them, what do you do? You
sit out a year and re-enter the draft.
Well, you can't do that anymore. You used to be able to do that. Or you can go to the CFL, which is what most players did. If they didn't want to get drafted by that guy, and you see a guy like Elway, he had the ability to go to baseball. He was drafted Major League Baseball. And then
the Yankees.
Yeah, and the story about Bo Jackson. The Cleverhouse's family, Hugh Cleverhouse, the former owner of the Bucks, told Bo Jackson, "Oh yeah, you can come for a visit. We can show you around, stuff like that, because we're going to draft you number 1 overall. It won't affect your college eligibility at all." Well, of course, it did, and he wanted to play baseball for Auburn, and he felt like that baseball team had a good chance of winning a national championship. Or at least get to the College World Series. And then they told him, because you made that visit and with an agent to Tampa, you lost your eligibility. You can't play baseball. And he was so pissed that's why he refused not only to play football, go draft by Tampa, but he refused to play football. And he says, "You know what? I am not playing. So I'm not reporting. I'm going to the Kansas City Royals. I'm going to play Major League Baseball." And he did. Mm-hmm. And the Raiders tell the story, like you said, your name can go back in. His name's coming up in the draft, and it's the 8th round. The Raiders said, what the hell? We'll take a shot. We'll get his rights, because Tampa never had his rights. Even though they drafted him, they never had his rights because he refused to report. And Al Davis personally called Bo Jackson, set it up, and they told Bo, they agreed to his terms. I'm going to play the entire season of baseball, but if you can wait for me to come at the end of the baseball season, whenever that occurs, because conceivably, if the Royals go to the World Series, that's October.
Mhm.
Whenever that occurs, then I'll come play football. And the Raiders said, okay, we can live with that. And Bo Jackson announced he'll play football as a hobby. The NFL, I'm playing the NFL for a hobby. And he was still one of the best running backs in the NFL.
Yes, he
It's just,
was.
and yes, he
I-
replaced Marcus Allen. He did. Yeah, and these two guys from the class of '83 as well, Jim Kelly and Steve
Mhm.
Young. There is some footage of Steve Young as a 49, as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, getting the
Yep.
crap beat out of him. And
And the Los Angeles Express.
that's where he went in the USFL, Los Angeles Express. Same with, and Jim Kelly was a Houston Gambler.
Yep.
So yeah, but yes, he could have been. I'll watch the 30 for 30 on Bo Jackson, which is how I know this story. And the interesting thing about Bo Jackson, if you play Techno Bowl, you knew who Bo Jackson was. The interesting thing about Bo Jackson is one of those guys. He is like Paul Bunyan. He is a legend. But if you look at his records, he wasn't an elite player in baseball and wasn't an elite football player, just an extremely good one, because he didn't play in either sport long enough to become a dominant player. That's what's so weird about it. I've seen Bo Jackson, and I could tell these stories 1,000 times because I saw it happen. Bo Jackson doing things like, how the hell do you do this? You strike out, pick up a bat, and break it over your knee? Have you ever tried to break a bat over your friggin' knee?
No. I'm smarter than that.
You got a baseball bat on your batting helmet, and your forearms are so huge you can break it over your head. I've seen Bo Jackson do that. Sorry,
I
Bo
will
Jackson.
never forget the Raiders playing in Seattle that night.
Oh yeah. I mean,
That was the beginning of the end of Brian Bosworth's career.
Brian Bosworth was all marketing too. You know that.
Oh yeah, same as John Sanders.
I mean, he was the one that started Boz, and he also started the anti-Boz campaign. Like
I saw this documentary on him where he goes into this storage unit and he's got his son there, and it goes through and tells the whole story of everything. And he doesn't look to be anything remotely size-wise what he used to be.
Well, he was a steroid stallion. I mean, he was. That was part of the reason why, he ended up having such a short NFL career, because he wasn't real. I mean, this is different from, what happened to Lyle Alzado. Lyle Alzado was naturally a tough, strong person, and he used the steroids to heal himself and get himself even bigger. Bosworth was so consumed with image that he was using steroids to create the illusion of a built body. But yeah, I've heard this joke before. I thought you were going to get ready to tell the story about Bo Jackson, the fastest guy in baseball, and I cannot remember his name. It's not Ricky Henderson, and not Ozzie Smith, but he was one of the fastest guys in baseball, and he hit a ball onto the warning track in the corner where the third baseline is. And in that corner, Bo Jackson playing outfield. Bo Jackson runs it down. This guy is hauling ass, coming around second, getting to third, when Bo Jackson starts his wind up to throw the ball to home plate. From the warning track at the third baseline, he gets the ball to home plate and beats this guy coming in, thinking he's got an in-the-park home run. And they said after the game, he was so in shock that he got he was caught out. He was marked out because he didn't get to home plate in time. That he sat there and watched the replay of the footage and kept beating the table, going, "Who threw me out? There's no way he threw me out. There's no way." And yeah, Bo Jackson from the warning track. Bo Jackson ran up the baseball wall to go catch a fly ball from it was going to be a home run over the wall. He ran up the wall and came back down like it was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff Bo Jackson did. It was amazing. I don't know if it was Vince Coleman. God, I can't remember. It's going to drive me crazy, because it was American League. That's why. Throws out runner. Okay, throws guys out from. It's Reynolds. It is Harold Reynolds. Harold Reynolds. That's who it was. So Harold Reynolds. That's who ran that.
He's one of the guys that does that's an analyst for ESPN, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Harold Reynolds sat there and watched that tape over and over again going, "Who threw me out? There's no way he could have thrown me out." And he did. He did. Yeah, Vince Coleman, I think, was playing for the Cardinals still. So that's National League.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was when I was in college. I mean, so I'm watching ESPN because this is when ESPN was really good. I'm watching Sports Center because after Sports Center comes prime time, and then NFL films from about 10:30 at night or 11:30 at night till like 2 a.m. I'm watching NFL films on a Sunday night. I got class next day, but I'm watching a Sunday night. I'm sitting there watching all this stuff or recording on VCR. That's how I know all this useless trivia. So anyway, Sean, you have any last thoughts for this evening about the schedule, Drew Brees, any signings, anything like that? Because we're getting into the OTA start.
I listen to sports talk radio quite a bit here,
Okay.
and after I want to say like 5 p.m., they go to Fox Sports shows, and these guys, when I got off work the night that Drew Brees sent that tweet, I find it ironic. They were discussing it, and everybody was talking about potential landing spots for Drew Brees. And I'm thinking, there is no way that Drew Brees would play for anybody but New Orleans. And on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, they still have his rights, don't they?
No, actually they don't. He's not under contract anymore. So, in fact, this is the last year that he hit any of his salary even counts towards the cap. So,
but to be honest, I don't see that happening at all.
Yeah, Mike Detillier is the best. I've talked to Mike several times. So, he's not coming back. He's 43 years old. I think last year, when he thought about coming back, when he seriously thought about it for half a second, he said he went out there and started throwing the ball. He just had surgery on his left shoulder, not his passing shoulder, his left shoulder. I mean, he accomplished just about everything he could possibly accomplish. He would have liked to have won another Super Bowl, but he's also at the point in his life where he's like, this, what can I do? What is there left to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did say that he had retirement shoulder surgery. I mean, Tom Brady, I think Tom Brady's about to hit that. I'm trying to think of somebody other than Ben Roethlisberger, but that Ben Roethlisberger
Peyton
point in
Manning.
his career. Peyton Manning, yeah, Peyton Manning's a good one too. Where
you can go back and look at footage of Peyton Manning, and you can almost isolate the play where it nosedived.
Yeah. I think,
I don't look for Brady to play beyond this year anyway. Number one, he signed that huge deal.
Yes, he did.
And if he had any intentions of playing beyond this year, they probably would have kept that under wraps.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I think I just feel like he's going to hit that wall where he's going to suddenly lose it. His arm's not there. It's just not happening the way it should. And if the Bucks fail to make the playoffs, which is possible, but unlikely. But if the Bucks fail to make the playoffs, they're one and done in the playoffs again. I don't think he finishes and gets that second year in there. I think he goes straight to television. I think he just wants to get. He wants one more run, one more go around. He saw how weak the NFC was, and he just thinks that I can still at least get to another Super Bowl, and I'll have a record for a number of appearances in the Super Bowl. And if I can get a ring, I can get a ring. But I don't see outside of the Rams or Dallas anybody really challenging him. So, that's what he's thinking, and I think he's going to hit that wall. So, that wall's name is Davenport. I would love for Brady. This I don't like wishing injury. Yeah, I do like wishing injury on people. What am I saying? But I do. I do want to see Brady get that hit, that one hit where it's like, yeah, I really should be home messing with my kids, not taking this kind of punishment. What it is I start getting a drip at night, and I don't know what it is, and that's what I'm coughing up. It's like I get a postnasal drip, and I don't feel bad. I'm not COVID positive or anything like that. I just get this cough. So, yeah, I feel fine. It's just I get that I get that cough. So anyway, I feel like that's what's going on with me. So yeah, I'd like to see that hit. Hell, I'd like to see the hit that Viking safety did to Greg Landry and the Lions back in the day, where you see Greg Landry drop back and he doesn't even see him coming and puts his helmet and his shoulder in this dude's chest, and Greg Landry's head you see snap back because it's such a hard hit. That's old school though. I do drink a lot of water. Believe me, I drink a lot of water. Anyway, thank you guys for sticking with us. I had to make up for the show getting cut short. So you kind of put these two shows together last week and this week. You get a full 2-hour show. So, anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.